The boys are back, but it took a whole lot of time and work to get to the final product we see on our screens. There's a whole lot of CGI that is key for the storytelling in the series, so let's dive right into what this superhero show looked like without all the VFX. Number 1. This certainly was a whale of a job.
He's like, so, if we wanted to crash a boat through a whale, how hard would that be?
This might be one of the most complicated scenes the team behind The Boys has ever pulled off, but let's break it down. The boat that takes that whale down? It was real.
I think we took a little creative license with that one. Emotionally, it worked.
And yes, the actors were in it. In fact, one of them was even manning it, driving like a total maniac.
All of the boat stuff was challenging to shoot, but it was we had so much fun doing that.
Thanks to a special slide built and set up on the beach, the boat could have a somewhat controlled crash into the sea creature.
Makes it so, pun intended, I guess, impactful.
This ship was literally pulled up onto the beach by a string while CG gave us that water splashing. But the fake blood? Well,
they did 150 gallons of practical blood on that shot.
Which means very little of the blood we see on screen is CG. Number 2, if you can see it, you can do it.
The whale sequence, it was constantly evolving.
Anticipating one of the most intense, gruesome, and memorable stunts meant before diving in too far, the team needed to know exactly what they wanted to pull off.
Once we got the pages, we were like, please, will you come help us?
Extremely detailed previsuals were made so the team could break the frames down and determine exactly how to shoot the sequence, combining practical and visual effects.
Partnering with ILM, once we got the previs and the tech biz, we also shipped that to them.
Everything on the water wound up being CG, but when we got to the beach set, that whale took center stage. Number 3. It's much easier on a computer than in real life. Anyone can be a superhero when you've got CG to help you out. Who needs to spend all that time and effort destroying real cars when you can let electrifying CG powers do all the heavy lifting?
In visual effects, sometimes you gotta do it, sometimes there's no other way.
Literally, the bit of glow and lens flare we get when seeing these powers on screen were added purposefully to help bring a more grounded feel to the show. Number 4. How long could he hang on? Chace Crawford had the special privilege of being able to film riding the whale on somewhat of an actual whale.
He's a pretty cool dude, and he was just like, all right, cool, man, whatever. I think it was also just kind of hilarious for him.
In what was the only blue screen shot filmed in the entire sequence is Crawford sitting atop a kind of mechanical bull whale 12 feet up in the air.
Chace just kind of trusted us.
The actor had a solid grip, feeling that power as he filmed what would become a very eye-catching shot.
Guys gonna be like, yo, like big bear hug. Love the show.
And dolphins.
Number 5. You gotta break it down one step at a time. Launching someone into a building is shockingly easy to film. That is, if you consider an actor making the leap out of a building so the footage can be played in reverse, easy. As for making the building explode, well, it was a bit more complicated than that. The VFX version of the building itself was the star of the show. Every bit of the structure was detailed, which ensured the explosion and blast would look as realistic as possible. Every beam, every stair, and every CG brick was laid, before destroying it all anyway. But for a shot like this, all that work is worth it. Number 6. 3, 2, 1. It's an efficient way to travel, you've gotta give them that. The fact that it looks electrifyingly cool is just a bonus. Wires were in place to raise those performers up, but the cool effects? Well, that was all the CG team. Number 7. Need a skyscraper? Get a skyscraper, no problem. Eagle-eyed fans might notice that the bottom of this massive building looks awfully similar to Roy Thompson Hall in downtown Toronto. But in the world of The Boys, the height of this tower puts the real one to shame. That said, the way the CG part of the building matches the actual structure is pretty impeccable. Oh, and while we're here, let's check out another view of that Vought headquarters building. Number 8. Ship overboard. But on land, real as it looks, that boat was nowhere near the set. In this case, a large practical boat piece was enough of a stand-in for the VFX team to work with. We forget that sometimes even seemingly simple parts of shows like The Boys have some seriously detailed effects involved. When it came to the boat being thrown right out of the water, well, CGI took the stage for obvious reasons. Number 9. Sometimes you gotta pave your own path. Or blast it open in this case. After seeing a fiery first season, is it any surprise we get little explosions everywhere? This seems like a bit of an odd choice, but if you got the ability to blast through metal, then why not? Number 10. This is flexibility at a whole new level. Okay, but for real though, how do actor Sean Benson's arms go on for so long? The magic of CG. But those arms didn't just get extended. Nah, the VFX team bulks up the arms a bit while stretching them out. Oh, and don't forget to add some folks in the crowd.
Probably pull off more real in camera.
When it came time to use those arms to do some harm, an extra person had to help out, acting as the actor's hands while the rest of his body stayed hidden in the green suit. Combined with the actor's performance, we'd never have guessed there was another person between them at all. That's some laser focus. Number 11. Something every good superhero should be able to do. To pull off such an epic feat without actual power requires some heavy-duty CG. In this case, a few layers had to be combined to hit the right mark. The actors got to safely film their portion in a green screen studio, while the VFX team got to work, building the world and Crash, so we got that extra bit of pizzazz we love so much. The performers definitely couldn't do it alone. What we see on screen is a combo of the actual performer as well as CG rendered portions that are layered over top. Number 12. That light is mighty bright. Sure, Erin Moriarty doesn't shine quite literally as bright as she does in the show, but her performance, even without all the powers, matches the level of VFX her character was provided with.
My character is the only good superhero of the show. She's earnestly, wants to save the world.
Not only did her eyes get a glow up, but her whole character as we see all the CGI power taking over. Moriarty was battling with everything she had, even if her powers weren't there on the day. She made it work with the little square light patches on her hands.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun.
Number 13. Yeah, you really don't want to get in their way. For the ones shooting lasers out of their eyes, well, CG looks much cooler. For those getting hurt by those lasers, it's not such a cute sight.
Did a tremendous job of getting right up to the line, if not over it.
Especially with the creepy realistic prosthetics used before any VFX took over. Thank goodness those nasty injuries are just special effects. Those laser burns do some serious damage. Without CG, it's just two people looking at each other super intensely. If looks could hurt, without lasers that is. Oh, and heating milk? Yeah, it's never been easier. Number 14. VFX was certainly less messy than doing it in real life. Who knew so much debris and dust had to be accounted for when creating visual effects? That said, it's certainly why the scene looks so realistic.
It's mostly real. We did a little bit of sweetening in visual effects, but not much.
Everything from bits of debris to the vehicles themselves to the climactic crash wouldn't exist were it not for the CG team behind the scenes.
In visual effects, sometimes you gotta do it, sometimes there's no other way.
Number 15. VFX blasts don't stand a chance against this superhero.
Homelander want to shake it up a bit.
No matter how many shots the VFX team created to be fired, they didn't do any harm or slow down this superhero at all.
To be honest, I think he's the weakest character on the show. I think, super strength.
These fiery details are key since they help to show us in the very beginning of the series just how powerful Anthony Starr's character could be. Plus, it looks super rad.
That is wrap.
The CGI effects used in The Boys amp up this series to make it one of the best there is these days. We'd never have guessed CG was used in so many instances in the series. But what we can say is that all of them were done pretty flawlessly. Which scene had your favorite CGI work?